You're right on time for Hope TV News Watch on the 16th day of October 2023. Tonight on the Dialogue KE, I'll be joined in studio by TGN party leader Mura Accelerator and Esther Nyonja, a political analyst, as we discuss on the state of politics in the country. A very good evening to you and welcome to the broadcast. My name is Kimani and my co-presenter on the sign language interpretation tonight is Boniface Morethi. Kenya's energy sector is expected to get a boost after signing a memorandum of understanding with China's Energy International Group at an event witnessed today by President William Ruto, who is on a 3-day state visit to China. According to the head of state, the agreement underscores Kenya's commitment to strengthening its relations with China and advancing the development of its energy infrastructure. Our very own Veronica Wanjiru begins our bulletin with the following story.
Kenya and China have signed a memorandum of understanding on Energy International Group. The partnership will focus on optimizing the flexibility and reliability of Kenya's electrical power systems with an aim to modernize power generation methods, transmission line, distribution lines, and substations. Speaking during his visit, President William Ruto has emphasized Kenya's close ties with China and the readiness of the latter to cooperate with the former to boost output.
And my coming to China this time round is a confirmation of our commitment to elevate this relationship for the mutual benefit of Kenya and China.
Ruto, who is currently on a 3-day state visit in China, arrived on Sunday to attend the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation Summit. Kenya's goal of improving its energy infrastructure, a vital component of the country's economic progress, is now a reality with the signing of this deal. The head of state has further said that the nation has a lot of potential to investigate, particularly in areas of housing, water, and energy.
Kenya is a great champion of renewable energy, and that is why our grid is almost 93% renewable. And that is a deliberate decision that we made as a country. And I am very happy that you have technologies that can work with us to leverage on our renewable energy assets, both in geothermal. We have between 10 and 20 gigawatts of geothermal energy potential. We want to persuade you and your company to look at the possibilities of working with us as the government of Kenya to unlock the opportunities for this energy as part of enhancing the energy pool in not just Kenya, but in our region.
The president is also expected to deliver a keynote address at the summit, which will be attended by other heads of states. The address will be centered on the digital economy as a new source of growth, highlighting Kenya's advancement in information and communication technology, ICT, and innovation. Veronica Wanjiru, reporting for Hope TV News Watch.
So much, Wanjiru, for that story. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has denied endorsing Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka as the presidential candidate in the 2027 general election. In a statement dated today, the Azimio leader said that the praises he has heaped on Kalonzo Musyoka should not be interpreted as endorsement, clarifying that the praises were an appreciation for his political backing in 3 subsequent elections and an appreciation of his past deeds. The remarks by Odinga comes a week after President William Ruto mentioned Musyoka's name as a possible challenger in the next elections during his 4-day tour in the Nyanza region. Odinga has expressed that it is too early for any political party to name its presidential candidate as the election is 4 years away, at the same time insisting that every leader in the coalition stands a fair and equal chance to become the 2027 flag bearer. The Azimio leader has however assured Azimio supporters that he plans to remain very active in party and national politics all the way to 2027. Away from that, in public service, Performance and Delivery Management Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria has hinted at introducing fees for services offered at Huduma centers. Kuria, who was speaking after taking over his new role at the ministry, said the move will ensure that Huduma centers become self-sustainable without depending on the national government. The CS has vowed to have a microscopic eye on all projects done in the country and relieve President William Ruto of the task following up on the progress of government projects.
I want to have a discussion with the Postal Corporation of Kenya, and we have got around 893 post offices. What we are going to do is ensure that everywhere there's a post office, it's also a Huduma center, because clearly Kenyans have shown that they have got faith and confidence in Huduma centers. But not just that, two things. One, we are also going to use our Huduma centers and interest the private sector to trust us in service delivery, even in services which have got nothing to do with the government. Because clearly, if this is one area where the public sector is doing much better than even the private sector, and so why not offer our services even for the private sector? His Excellency the President has challenged us on the issue of sustainability, on the issue of not just depending on exchequer, and my first area of that endeavor is to ensure that Huduma centers do not depend on money from the exchequer. We generate our own revenue, and I'm going to also to have a discussion with the consumer department within government. I want to assure all the county governments, I want to assure all members of parliament that I am not going to do delivery and performance from Nairobi, and I'm not going to do it from these air-conditioned lofty offices. Tukutane kwa ground. When I go to the county, I want to know why is this health project not delivered.
The Ministry of Health has today held a Universal Health Coverage Pre-Mashujaa Day conference at Kapkatet Stadium in Kericho County. Ahead of this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations, which are set to be held this Friday under the theme Universal Healthcare. Speaking during the conference, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has noted that even as the country focuses on universal health coverage, caution must also be exercised on the triple threat, which is new HIV infections among adolescents, teenage pregnancy, and gender-based violence among girls. And as Grace Ahatina reports, the government has pledged to continue collaborating with county governments as well as investing in preventive healthcare to enhance its quality.
Momentous occasion.
With just 3 weeks after President William Ruto flagged off approximately 100,000 community health workers to all the 47 counties, the Ministry of Health has held the Universal Health Coverage Pre-Mashujaa Day conference at Kapkatet Stadium in Kericho County.
So as to highlight the campaign.
This conference comes ahead of the 2023 Mashujaa Day celebrations, which are set to be held on Friday under the theme Universal Health Care. Speaking during the event, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua noted that the government is investing in promoting preventive health care to the grassroots in collaboration with county governments to enhance access to quality health care, which is every citizen's right.
We are closely working with counties in establishing sustainable structures of promoting preventive health as envisioned under the universal health coverage. In this regard, we have allocated 141.2 billion Kenya shillings to the Ministry of Health, with at least 18.4 billion shillings going into the universal health coverage.
Gachagua also opened the Kapkatet Hospital Intensive Care Unit ICU, at the same time issuing the Kericho County Referral Hospital with a certificate as a Level 5 health facility, noting that medical students will have an opportunity of practicing and sharpening their skills in the hospitals.
Besides creating a favorable environment for research and incubation of medical innovations, students will have an opportunity of shaping and sharpening their skills. Our students of the Kenya Medical Training College, Sigowet campus, and other medical institutions put into practice their skills at the Level 5 hospital. There is potential in groundbreaking research in digital medical practices, including artificial intelligence.
On her part, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nahumicha highlighted that to achieve universal health coverage, the ministry seeks to encompass building robust primary health care networks, nurturing a dedicated and skilled community health workforce, as well as expanding comprehensive community health services, among other interventions.
You know, you can have all the equipment, you can have a perfect building, but if you don't have a health worker, it doesn't work. So we shall also be discussing how best do we have a motivated health workers and how do we manage them. We shall also be discussing the whole life cycle of a health worker, starting from production. And that corner there, Your Excellency, is one of our production units for health workers.
Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Grace Ahati.
So much Grace Ahati for that report. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Felix Koskei has called on stakeholders in the construction sector to be people of integrity and offer professional services. Speaking on Monday during an engagement with entities within the construction sector at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, Koskei noted that corruption has hindered those in the building sector from providing professional services in the right way. Hence, cases of collapsing buildings across the country. Here, here's our very own Alice Diana with more.
Following the collapsing of multi-story buildings in the country, Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Felix Koskei today met with agencies in the building sector to discuss the causes of the collapse and proposals to end the menace.
National Building Inspector.
During the meeting, stakeholders in the construction sector noted that shortcuts, poor workmanship, and impunity during construction are some of the leading causes of the collapsing of multi-story buildings.
The next cause is what we are calling poor construction materials. That is the sand, the aggregate, depending on how the engineers take control of that. And I'm glad the end of engineer, the judge is here, because they need to be counter-checking the materials before they are used, because we have noted that's another area which is a big problem. And the other cause is poor workmanship, which now the construction authority with the contractors need to counter-check on what is happening, so that they are able to train their builders on how they can be able to use the construction methodologies that are given. So poor workmanship is another one, our chief guest. The other one is inadequate designs, and this falls to the engineers because we have some of them who are designing, but they are not counter-checking.
According to the professionals in the sector, there is need for all entities concerned to move in one coordinated function. The professionals have further suggested several proposals that can help mitigate the collapse of buildings.
There is urgent reforms needed to build technical capacity in the counties. We used to have a city engineers department. That, I think, when we got the Pluba Act, disappeared.
On his part, Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Felix Koskei stated that greed has hindered those in the building sector from providing professional services.
Experts in this area.
Koskei has asked entities in the construction sector to try and do the right thing and urged them to disobey any instructions that are illegal in nature, whether it's from government, private or international project.
Today, I'm directing that no government project should be started or even be imagined or to make it begin without necessary approvals are obtained. And we're asking all the engineers, all the QSS, all officers of built environment to demand for all the licenses, all the approvals. And as usual, they're always displayed on site. All, whether it's a government project, whether it's a private project, whether it's an international project, all approvals must be obtained before any project commences. All.
Alice Diana, Hope TV Newswatch.
Thank you so much, Alice, for that report. Now to some exciting news to Hope FM and Hope TV listeners. Hope Media is in celebration after its iconic show Activate, which airs on Hope FM, was awarded the second runners-up during this year's Africa Mashariki Transport Awards over the weekend. The show is hosted by Sharon Naitori Wangenye and Favored Frank, remarking on the win after the gala dinner at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. In Nairobi, the two presenters attributed their win to God and thanked their listeners for voting for the show. The awards aim at celebrating outstanding achievement of individuals and organizations in the transport sector in Kenya and East Africa.
Well, first of all, being nominated for this award was an honor. It goes to say that, someone at least notices what we do. So even being on the nomination list to begin with was a big deal, and we're really appreciative of that fact. And then coming as the second runners-up, we are grateful to God. And reaction on hearing our names out there. First of all, there was a crowd. There was influential people in the society that were there, and so for us it was a good thing because we felt like Hope FM, Hope Media is being positioned. Even the people that do not know about us got to know about us on that day. So it was a yay, thank you Jesus, kind of a moment.
Well, I just want to attribute the win to Jesus Christ, for we would not have made it without him. So like everything, I just want to give glory to God because it's such a win. It's such a time. I thank God for this win because it actually shows that we are out there, we can be seen, we can be heard. And, glory to God for everything. Yeah.
When we were actually called and when we received the email that we had been nominated, it first of all came as a surprise, because we had just begun doing this together with Frank, and it really was a God moment. Because no human would do that. How does a 2 months old or a 3 months old get that kind of recognition? So all we have been doing all this time is attribute and acknowledge everything to God, and we always start with prayer. We always end the show with prayer, so we can only say, this was God, this is God, and to him be the glory. Yeah.
Amazing stuff right there. Congratulations to you, Sharon, Frank, and to all the listeners of Activate on Hope FM. And on that note, it's time for a quick breather, but after the break, I'll be back with the business and sports news. Stick around.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Welcome back. Now let's get down to business. Real estate developer Superior Homes Kenya is making strides in sustainable living with its latest project in Green Park Estate at the river. The development aims to redefine modern living by incorporating eco-friendly practices and cutting-edge design. According to the CEO of Superior Homes Kenya, Shiv Arora, Green Park Estate in the river is a testament to the dedication to eco-conscious development.
The Arcadia Green Park was designed to serve the Athi River community at large, more specifically the Green Park residents. And besides that, it's also targeting to serve the tourists who are traveling along the Mombasa Road Highway, heading to Mombasa, heading to Twande. So currently our footfall is at about 80,000 people a month. We're serving at least 3,500 people a day.
It's more just a track record of profitability. Superior Homes has very vanilla accounting. We don't have, we don't revalue our assets or anything. We're just a pure profitable real estate developer. And I think by coming into the market with a developer that's got a track record of profit, a track record of delivery, people have been living in our houses for 20 years. I think that for us is key to come into the market. A strong pipeline, 4 to 5 different developments, each of them doing, good sales numbers. That to us would be key. We're always continuing to look and see how we can participate in the affordable housing agenda. But our price points for houses are between 15 million to 25 million. That's not your affordable housing space. It's bang in your middle income housing space. There's a lot of exciting discussions ongoing with the affordable housing space. And with opening infrastructure, it means that affordable housing can start to be done a little bit further away from the city, where land prices are not as steep as they are within the city. Because the challenge with affordable housing previously outside the city has always been, okay, so the house is affordable, but where will people go to work, right? How much money will they spend on transport?
Moving on, and Kuramo Capital Management, an investment management firm with a focus on sub-Saharan Africa, plans to invest 22 billion shillings in supporting female-led enterprises over the next 10 years. And the Moremi platform, which is an initiative that seeks to empower the next generation of African women enterprises and promote gender equitable fund management. According to Kuramo CEO and founder Wale Adeuson, the program will address the huge funding and knowledge gap for women in business, a major barrier to inclusive, sustainable economics and social development of countries in Africa.
We are very excited today to be launching the Mura Accelerator program because we are at Kuramo, we are a firm believer that there is a gender gap in finance when it comes to private equity, and we are trying to put structures around that so that we can be able to cross that gap. The Murembi Fund itself, and part of the Accelerator program, we are going to be investing $150 million, and of that $150 million, it's going to go to various women-led funds, and we are hoping that of that $150 million, as a result of those investments, in about 25, actually it will be 25 investment funds that are led by women. But as a result of making those investments in those 25 women-led funds, that it will be able to catalyze hopefully 10 times that, so that those funds individually now, as a result of these investments, can be able to go out there and raise additional funds that can be deployed across not only Kenya, but across the African market.
Despite there being an acceleration of capital into Africa, women have been underrepresented at all levels, at fund manager level, senior investment professional levels, and then ultimately the female businesses that get invested in. With the platform, the idea is to accelerate and catalyze more female fund managers that will then be able to fundraise, catalyze more capital into those funds that will then ultimately get more businesses that are gender diverse invested in.
So I'm very excited about the Moremi Accelerator program. My expectations are really that for first-time female fund managers like myself, particularly for Kenyan female fund managers, that we have exposure around what is required to be able to adequately start and run a professional venture capital or private equity fund.
Absa Bank Kenya has today launched a new digital platform, Wezesha Stock, that aims to boost inventory management and trading for small and medium enterprises. Wezesha Stock, which is a real-time digital platform, will automate stock financing for retailers to complement their financing needs. The launch of Wezesha Stock comes as a major boost to Kenya's wholesale and retail trade sector, which according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics accounts for close to 8 million jobs, which is more than half of all jobs created by the MSME sector in the country.
In the interest rate environment we are going through now, for the effective planning of your business, I think the ability to predict the costs that you'll incur as you do your business is very, very important. The pricing will be competitive, of course dependent on the individual's credit risk profile, and most importantly, the risk-based lending model, which our central bank, has taken an active role in implementing, will be actively at play in this.
The Wezesha Stock platform is therefore designed as a digital real-time platform that supports our corporate clients, distributors, wholesalers, retailers to access working capital finance for inventory at competitive rates, as well as inventory management solutions.
And to some sports in action now, the Kenya women's under-20 national team Rising Starlets returned to the country today from Angola after a successful outing. Rising Starlets thrashed Angola 4-0 in the second leg of the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers to secure a 10-1 aggregate win. They will face Cameroon in the next round of qualifiers.
Mimi nilifurahishwa kwanza kama Mkenya, because sasa mimi ni raia wa kawaida. Kama Mkenya na kwa niaba wale wa Kenya wengine, nimefurahishwa na vile hao wasichana wetu wametufanyia kwa hii World Cup qualifier game. First round walicheza last week hapa na Angola, tukafunga Angola 6-1. Return match imefanyika kule Angola, tumewafunga 4-0. Kwa hivyo kwa jumla tumewashinda kwa 10-1 aggregate. Na our ladies soccer team Rising Starlets wamequalify to the third round ambapo watakutana na Cameroon. Just a couple of weeks ago ile senior team yetu Harambee Starlets ilifunga Cameroon. So ni mzuri kuweka moral because hawajaenda huko kujiwakilisha. Wameenda huko kuwakilisha Kenya na we are very proud vile wameweza kufunga Angola mabao 10-1. Kwa hivyo we are wishing them all the best, we'll support them na serikali pia itawasupport tuhakikishe kuwa wanaleta World Cup hapa Kenya.
25 elite coaches have embarked on their CAF A coaching course journey today. This coaching course represents the second highest level of certification offered by the Confederation of African Football, the prestigious CAF Pro license standing as the highest attainable certification on the continent. Among the coaches who are part of the course are Harambee Starlets coach Beldin Odemba, Ulinzi Stars coach Anthony Kimani, assistant Posta Rangers coach Bernard Kawinzi, CAF instructor Jacqueline Juma, among others.
The coaches in this class are consistent from class D, and they have maintained their tempo. And if you look at them, most of them have been in football for so long. Most of them have played even football, and they have been consistent, and they're here today. And it's encouraging because at times you can train, but people fall out. But this is a class that started in 2016 after elections, and they're here today, which means there's interest, there's consistency, and there's something good happening with the football. We made a decision that the best teacher is that teacher that is educated. And so that's why we have invested so much in coaching courses, refereeing, administration, instructors. By now you can see all the instructors are Kenyans, and they have been trained through the programs of FKF. So FKF has done a lot for the game, and because we want quality. We want quality in the game. We want good coaches so that we can get good players.
It's the first A license in Kenya, given that FKF and CAF have lined out a pathway for the coaches, so it's much clearer. Giving knowledge to coaches is one of the best thing you can do, because whatsoever gives you a knowledge, then I think it's an entire lifetime investment.
I think today marks a very exciting journey in a 6-month period that we will all be here undertaking the CAF A license course. As you've clearly alluded to the fact that I'm among the few coaches that have had the opportunity to come up through the rankings and to follow the pathway that has been laid down by CAF. I started with my CAF D, went to the CAF C, CAF B, and now eventually I've had an opportunity to do CAF A. So I'm very, very elated, and I think brighter days lie ahead in as far as Kenyan football is concerned, because when you educate a coach, you by default educate a lot of players that will be handled by that particular coach. So I'm very excited with the journey that lies ahead.
Well, with that, we come to the end of the first part of this broadcast, but after the break, we go straight into the dialogue A, and tonight we'll be discussing on the state of politics. I'll be joined by TGN party leader Modhiora Kariara, as well as political analyst Esther Nyonde. You don't want to miss this. See you on the other side.
The Asian community in Kenya has been nationally recognized as the 44th tribe of the people of this great nation.
For me, God is real in Christianity. I talk to Him, He talks to me. I fail, He forgives me.
When I first read the first book of Genesis,
it gave me an orderly sense of accounts of creation. Day 1 is what he does. Day 2, he creates this. Day 3.
Every third Thursday of the month, we bring you Asia Testify,
where we will be listening to life-transforming stories of Asian believers who have walked with the Lord. Only here on Hope TV. Look and live.
Je, ushawahi kuweka jambo kwenye mizani? Ushawahi kupata uzito wake? Haya basi, usitapetape zaidi. Naomba unigande, maana mizani ipo hapa kwa ajili yako.
Vyakula na mbegu za kitamaduni,
na kutuliza fikra na kukuwezesha kupima masuala ibuka katika jamii. Tena kwa busara. Tukutane mizani kila Ijumaa saa 1 machweo kwenye runinga ya Hope TV.
In order to keep hope alive in the airwaves, Hope Media has a couple of initiatives. Friends of Hope. Friends of Hope is you and I forming a team of well-wishers and volunteers who give in cash and kind to support in spreading the gospel at Hope Media. Currently, Hope Media is running a campaign under Friends of Hope dubbed 100 for 1. Through the campaign, Hope Media is asking Hope FM and Hope TV listeners and viewers to give just 100 shillings in order to reach one more soul with the message of hope and the gospel. Engage with us on our social media platforms at Hope FM Live and at Hope TV Kenya. Kuwa rafiki mso leo.
So this parent calls me, sits after service and says, "Young man, you do not know what you've done," because tells me that my son comes and tells me that, "Dad, I have also been struggling with ABCD. His was a mix of alcohol and pornography." And just hearing Justo on Route 104, I feel a young person like me give his testimony on how God has moved in his life. And I requested to meet the young man, and we met over coffee, became good friends. And I told him as well, listen, by me sharing does not mean, because the devil puts banana peels all over. Now, scripture tells us that, no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. It doesn't say that weapons will not be fashioned. No, it says no weapon. It means weapons will be fashioned. And he will put traps all over. Right from your phone. You open Instagram, you see an image. And all of a sudden, it plays back. All those things. So that's another, because the battle is in the mind. That is why Paul says in Romans 12:1, not be conformed by the patterns of the world, but rather be transformed by the renewing of the mind. He knows it's here. The devil knows. And this guy is millions of years old. He's not our age mate. For those who remember when I used to tell like that, right? He's not your age mate. Stop saying that, me, I know that you have been saved for 15 years. Dude, the devil has been in existence for millions of years. So guess what? He knows everything about you. Okay? But greater is he that is in you than he knows anyway. We walked together, and I'm happy to say that he found his deliverance. And he became also a peer champion, as it is, an educator. And for me, those are some of the things that, wow, without Hope FM, really the platform of Hope FM, and as Reverend Tomboy used to tell us as well, this is a platform not for you, but God is using you. The initiative Friends of Hope is more or less like what Romans 10:17 says, that faith comes only by the hearing, and hearing through the word of God. But how will they hear if somebody does not go to tell them? Think about that Muslim brother or sister who, because of you being a friend of hope and supporting with your 100 bob or whatever it is, that in Friday evening, by chance, they listen to Yesu Ndiye Njia. And then because of you supporting and being a friend of hope, the message will reach them in Zanzibar, in Mombasa, in whatever it is. Mimi ni rafiki mso. I'm a friend of hope. I'm just a Zawaka. I would like for you pia ukwe rafiki mso.
Welcome to the Dialogue KE. Tonight, we'll be discussing on the state of politics in the country. And to help us dissect this matter, I'm joined by TGN Party Leader Muthiora Karriara. Karibu sana.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kennedy.
All right, and Esther Nyonja, political analyst.
Hi, Kennedy.
They say ladies first, but men before. Let me begin with you, Muthiora. We've actually seen the statements by the Azimio leader Raila Odinga saying that he's going to back Kalonzo Musyoka for the 2027 presidency.
Yes.
But actually today, they released a statement saying that the remarks were actually were not read in the right context.
Yes.
I don't know what you have to say about that. Are we seeing the 2027 election campaign already starting?
Well, the backtracking by Raila Odinga, of course, was expected. For those who have been watching the way he carries himself, there's no way he was going to endorse someone this early in the game. What Raila Odinga was doing with regard to Kalonzo Musyoka's stature was trying to manage what the president had initiated. The president, in a way, wanted to dim Raila Odinga's chances of running in 2027 by forcing them to a corner where they will have to front Kalonzo Musyoka. So Raila Odinga came out to read to Kenyans what Kenyans already know, the credentials of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. But then, of course, I will say, it was put out of context. It's not that he was excited that he ended up saying everything that he said, but knowing Raila Odinga, he's not the kind of a person who would endorse someone unless there was a gun to his head, like it happened in 2002.
Do you think it's the right time for the Azimio leader, Raila Odinga, to endorse Kalonzo for the 2027?
Thank you for inviting me to this show today, Kennedy. With the statement that happened at Oburu's birthday yesterday. He was turning 80 years, and the statement was said by Raila Odinga. I tend to believe that when someone is on that stage, you could be carried away by excitement. And because Kalonzo was there, Kalonzo is leading the he's the leader of Azimio in the National Dialogue Committee,
Yeah.
and he was there. I feel that was quite strategic because first, if you look at it, it was in Nyanza, where that is Raila's stronghold. And looking at the man Raila, who is very unpredictable, it's very difficult to know Raila's next move. He will say this today, he'll say this tomorrow. So yesterday he gave out those comments, and media picked it up. And you know, media also blows up the news everywhere. Just a statement and it's everywhere. So today he released a statement saying that, no, I have not endorsed Kalonzo Musyoka, but I only spoke that way because he's a man of high stature and I respect him. And they even thought that he was the A team, he was the A person, the A figure for the NADCO. You remember the first team that was there? They said those people were not maybe up to that stature of that committee. So they gave Kalonzo Musyoka. But looking at it also, some people will also analytic and say that it's a measure to keep Kalonzo Musyoka busy and keep him away from, divert him from national politics. Because sitting on that table, sitting on the National Dialogue Committee table, there could be agreements here and here. And to answer your question, it's very early to tell because politics is dynamic and keeps on changing. One day in politics can change a lot. So this is just 1 year into the elections, and we have the next elections in 2027. By 2026, trust me, we'll have seen a shift in everything. So it's too early to tell.
Yeah. Maybe I could just give you context into the only time when Raila Odinga actually endorsed someone to run for president, which was in 2002 when he said, Kibaki Tosha. A lot of people imagine that Raila Odinga did it out of his heart, that he was just magnanimous. What was happening then was there was an impending fallout they had tried to negotiate on who the flag bearer was going to be, and they had not agreed after several sittings and discussions, like we've seen that happened in 2007 and then later in 2012, 2013. So the NAC, the Rainbow Movement or coalition, was about to crumble. And during that historic moment at Uhuru Park, in his wisdom, he knew we have to make a move right now or this coalition is not going to hold, because President Moi then was making plans to pull the carpet from beneath their feet. So without consultations, because it suited him then, Raila is a very calculative politician. He went ahead and said, Kibaki tosha. Right now, he does not have that kind of pressure. So he wouldn't mean a statement like the one that the media says he made yesterday. That, clearly for me, I will say, was blown out of context.
What if 4 years down the line, he actually means what he said?
Judging by how history has been written in this country, I will tell you that Raila Odinga, given that he will be in good health come that time, Raila Odinga will be on the ballot. He will not endorse anyone to run while he's able to make a shot at it.
We saw Raila Odinga have Martha Karua as the running mate. But right now we see more of Raila and Kalonzo, even in many forums. Do you think maybe this is going to be the ticket come 2027 for the Azimio team? Or we are going to see a different shift of the game?
You first asked him, what if he said comes true at that time, that Raila backs Kalonzo Musyoka in 2027. Looking at Raila Odinga's history, many people want to look at him and say, and ask themselves so many questions. Why has he not mentored politicians? But some people say that, he has mentored some politicians to be where they are, and then at the end of the day, they betray him. They leave him alone. Look at, they were once friends with William Ruto. So many politicians have been mentored by Raila Odinga. But when it comes to, I don't know, when it comes to that place where some betray him, some will go with him to the end. Now, Raila's shoes are really big to fill. They are very big shoes to fill. And looking at if he's not going to vie for that position, then he backs someone. It would be something great to do. It would be a strategic. It would be a strategic move, and it would be a very fair competition. It would be a fair election to face the president right now, because I believe a backing by Raila Odinga would really
change the game.
Change the game. Change the game. You know, Raila has organic supporters. Raila has he has a huge following. He's influential. He's charismatic. So I would be happy if he handed the mantle to Kalonzo Musyoka. And you see, even in 2022, Kalonzo Musyoka was one of the candidates that were potential candidates for the deputy president's position. But I think they wanted to play the gender factor to bring in Martha Karua. But looking at the stature of Kalonzo Musyoka, I believe he's a good fit. So we're good to go.
Let's shift gears now to the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And we've actually seen alleged fallout between the deputy and the president.
Have there been fallouts?
Alleged.
Alleged.
And we've seen actually the deputy president actually defending that there's no rift between him and the head of state.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, there was a time when we were told there was no Kieleweke and there was no Tanga Tanga. But as time went by, it all was revealed that the divisions actually existed. In the statements being made right now in the Kenya Kwanza House, we should read more into what's not been said rather than what's been said. You see, it's only the guilty who run, or the old who cringe when or complain when a talk about bonds is begun. So when you see Rigathi going on the defensive, it's because he knows the reality, which is the center is no longer holding. The influence, the support he had on the president has been waning. And this is expected in politics. Politics is dynamic. Interests change. And at the moment, I believe that what Rigathi Gachagua was bringing to the fold has, in a way, waned. And so it's possible there are other players who are more influential who are eating into his stuff. So when you hear him speak out, he's trying to assert that he's still as valuable as he was, that he's still as close as he was to the president. But in reality, it's not what it used to be.
All right. Esther, the transfer of CSs, the cabinet reshuffle has actually brought about a lot of topics of discussion among the political circles, and the prime cabinet secretary being given more responsibilities. I mean, many people have actually alleged that he's actually been groomed, maybe for the future. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the strategic move. But talking about the transfer of CSs, I think the problem began as the word go. When the president was appointing his cabinet secretary, he based more on rewarding his loyalists than looking at the competence. And well, it's accepted because in every election, there are people who support you, and lazima utarudisha huo mkono. So his selection of, the problem started on his selection of the cabinet secretaries, and the public did not have confidence with the CSS. You know, that came from the public at the beginning, right? And then with time, the president himself accepted it and said, some of my cabinet secretaries are not competent. They don't even know what they're doing. I know more than you, yes? So, you know, at that point, we expected that the president would reshuffle his cabinet and maybe bring a team of new technocrats, or maybe people who are more skilled, people who will portray public confidence with the executive, with the presidency. But now he reshuffled it. So it's the same people from here to here. And of course, it's power play, because we cannot play utopian kind of politics where everything is perfect, that the technocrats are in the right positions. As I said, loyalty has to play. So maybe some people played a role somewhere. I always ask myself, Moses Kuria has to be there. You see, he's like the weapon. He has to be somewhere. So I don't think the president can wake up and say, Moses Kuria, go home, you know, because he's looking at what he wants in the future. And now, Musalia Mudavadi being given that position for the Prime Secretary, Prime Cabinet Secretary, and also the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. Well, it could be that I wouldn't be surprised when come 2027 and the dynamics change and he's now somewhere, and now he looks at Ndindi Nyoro and says, Ndindi Nyoro, come and occupy this. And as you asked him about Rigathi Gachagua, I agree with him, because you see, when the president got support from Central Province, there was a tough tussle between Kithure Kindiki and Rigathi Gachagua, and it went to Rigathi Gachagua. So, but I really feel, I want to believe that most of the votes from Central, from the mountain, were brought by Ruto himself. Maybe Rigathi played a part. He played a part, but most of them came from Ruto himself. And now, as he has said, he's trying to find his relevance, because he's in that position and his relevance is wearing off. Yes? And you know, Rigathi Gachagua he says he's a truthful man. So he speaks this way. He speaks about the serikali ni ya shareholders, and the president says
So you mean that Ruto could have won the elections without even having the support of Rigathi Gachagua?
I want to believe so. I really want to believe so. Because, you know, Ruto is a charismatic leader also. Ruto is is he the first president who has gone to Nyanza province? He has gone to Nyanza province himself, and he's trying to woo Nyanza province. And Nyanza province has been a no-go zone for other presidents because it has been a Raila zone. But Ruto has had the confidence to step there. And he, even before he chose his deputy at that time, he had the masses, he had the following, he had people at heart because of his ideologies. So I want to believe whether he chose who, Ruto got the presidency. So he needed the support, yes, but the most of the votes were from Ruto himself. So Rigathi Gachagua played a small part in it, or maybe played a big part in it, but now getting there, he's worried that maybe my relevance is waving off. And looking at the trend, you see, things tend to repeat themselves. During the previous tenure, the president, it got to a point where the president and the deputy president lost touch, yes? And now at this time, Rigathi baby is looking at, if you did that to him, then you can also do that to me. So he's looking at it and saying, wacha pia mimi nipange watu wangu hapa na hapa, so that kikiumana, plus you
He's
play
actually
safe.
calling out for Mount Kenya region leaders meeting. Yeah, so meaning maybe he's mobilizing the bucket.
And you know, in politics, you play safe. You can't just go there and sit and say, I'm comfortable. You never know what is going to happen. So you have to have a backup plan. So maybe something is cooking and we are yet to see.
All right.
Time can tell.
And why do you think presidents and their deputies actually come at a point whereby things are not working?
It's all about ambition, because right now Rigathi Gachagua is number 2. There's only one position he would wish to occupy, and that's the presidency. We have an election to go, and should Ruto opt for someone else, then Rigathi would obviously oppose such kind of a move, because he can't step down given how our politics is set up. So in a way, if he's not managed well, he's a threat. He's a cannon that's waiting to explode. So that friction always exists, especially when those holding those offices are not there to serve the purpose for which they were elected, which is to deliver to the people.
Exactly.
This government is rode on a promise to change Kenyans' lives, but they have not done that. Their focus has been elsewhere to date. We are almost doing a year and a half, yet we cannot see the fruits of their labor as had been promised. So when things start falling apart, believe me, the casualties will be the likes of the deputy president.
He'll be the first casualty.
The guilty, as I say, are always afraid. I'll take you to a recent story about a cabinet secretary who was fired. His name was Mwangi Kiunjuri. First, dockets or portfolios were taken from his ministry. They were moved around, and then after that, the influence he had was watered down. And then what followed was his ejection from the cabinet by the former head of state. The rearrangement we have seen is preparing us for people who are going to exit the cabinet. So it's only fair that Rigathi Gachagua talks when we can still listen, because there's a time when his cry will come too late.
All right. These are all allegations. Let's wait and see if maybe it will come to the light.
Where there is smoke, there is fire. And we did not start the fire. So he knows what's coming.
It's just the same way I've said when we say we were skeptical about our CSS. You see what has happened. Dalili ya mvua ni mawingu,
as they say. Now let's move on to the national dialogue. Actually, both teams have agreed on 3 main issues. That is the 2/3 gender rule, the establishment of the prime CS office and the leader of opposition, and the fidelity of political parties. What many Kenyans are asking, these talks were to enable Kenyans have a discussion on the high cost of living.
Yes.
But we have not seen any in the 3 main issues.
There's the third one you have mentioned, and I would like you to repeat so we can begin with that.
The fidelity of political parties.
Yes.
There's also reconstitution of the IEBC. They've also agreed on that to increase the numbers from 7 to 9.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So about that, let's tie that to our discussion tonight. The president just the other day was doing what he says in Swahili, alikuwa anapanga opposition by imposing Kalonzo Musyoka
as their flag bearer.
Yes. That in itself is an assault on democracy because he's from a different fold. So when his actions seem or can be assumed to be undermining what others are trying to do, then we must ask, is he really defending and protecting our constitution? So the teams on the ground or doing these talks may agree, but when the principals are of a different mind, these talks are really about nothing, which is why the most important thing, which was to come up with a way to reduce the cost of living, is no longer important. So there are those issues over which they have agreed. We know we have a government that went around saying how they would not create positions for a few individuals. Yet, right now, of the 3 issues, a third of them involves creating plum positions for individuals. Yet, we know even when these positions are created, they're not going to assuage the suffering of the common Kenyan. So, we are glad that we no longer have protests every week. We have calm. People have gone back to what brings bread to the table. But then these talks are really about nothing. The institutions that are constitutionally protected and created should have been allowed to handle whatever issues there are. So I would say these talks should have happened before the protests came, before the police brutalized Kenyans, before properties were destroyed. But it's a good thing. That's what politicians do. They use us, the common wananchi, as fodder for their interests to be taken care of. And they seem to be pretty well taken care of at the moment.
All right. Esther, do you think the national dialogue is actually diverted from the main agenda?
I'll start from here. I'm a student of political science, and John Locke is a theorist who gave his theory on social contract. A social contract is an agreement between the people. You are born into an archaic situation, an archaic state, lawlessness, nothing. But now, for there to be an organization, there has to be an agreement between the rulers and the ruled. So the ruled give the rulers authority, the contract to rule them, but within powers, within some power. That's why we have the legislature, and that's the kind of democracy we have in our country here. Okay, so the national dialogue is a tested and true medium of conflict resolution. It's not happening for the first time in Kenya. It is not an idea that was brought by someone in Kenya because something happened. We've had national dialogues in Tunisia. We've had national dialogues in Sudan, and the national dialogues, they tend to give a pathway of a more formalized process where there is a threat of political legitimacy. For example, in Colombia, the government had to sit with the military and come up with a national dialogue to restore democracy in the country, okay? So a national dialogue will bring out a more formalized process so that we don't go to the streets. We can use committees, we can use referendums, we can use high-level consultations. And now in Kenya, we have a committee, the National Dialogue Committee. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't put it on the side and trash it and say it's useless and what, because you see what was happening before the National Dialogue Committee. Our democracy was being threatened. Stability was being threatened. There could be no, even if you talk about cost of living, we reported losses during the demonstrations. And for anything to thrive, for the president to work well, he needed a stable environment. And for him to get into government, he cannot overlook anything that could happen. So he had to step up and bring up this National Dialogue Committee that has constituted of the first one failed, the bipartisan talks failed, and now we had the National Dialogue Committee. We saw both leaders of the houses, the minority and the majority, agreeing for the first time in Parliament that let us constitute this. And it's even backed by Parliament, because now they have to ask for, they have, I think they have 15 days to complete their work, but they have to go to Parliament to ask for an extension of 30 days for them to complete their work. And so it's being backed by Parliament. So it's a formalized process of cooling down things, as it should be. I wouldn't say this is political. Now, about the issues that are entrenched in the National Dialogue Committee, cost of living was part of that, yes, because cost of living will affect every other thing. It will affect the politics, it will affect every other thing. And we've had other, what is your question again? I've gone and lost it. But I would say the issues in the National Dialogue Committee, they're supposed to provide a pathway for a pathway or a way forward for what happens in Kenya after every 5 elections, after every 5 years after elections, okay?
Because actually the main aim was the high cost of living, to address that.
No, the main aim was not high cost of living. Kenya Kwanza came up
to protest in the streets. They were actually complaining of the high cost of living.
Yes, Kenya, you know, it was just the demonstrations were, because you remember when they started, they had the audit of the 2022 elections. Yeah. Reconstitution of the IEBC. They had so many things, but they agreed.
The goalposts kept shifting.
It kept shifting, but now they finally agreed.
Did not have a clear goal when they began doing this. Number one, when they initiated, they were not sure that Kenyans would follow through. But then, after they called Kamukunji 1, Kenyans showed up. But Kenyans wanted them to address the high cost of living. So, as they kept shifting the goalposts, we find ourselves here today where the driving force, that which took Kenyans to the streets, is no longer on the table. No. It's now just a by the way.
Now let me finish what I was saying. The goalposts kept on changing, but for it to go to Parliament and be backed by the Azimio coalition, you remember Azimio had its points, and Kenya Kwanza came up with its points, and the points were cost of living, all right, and social economic issues, 2/3 gender rule, national unity and governance, check and balances in government, electoral justice, entrenchment of CDF, NGAF, Senate oversight, entrenchment of the leader of opposition, entrenchment of the prime CS. Yeah. So each side came up with their points to come and negotiate to see what you're going to agree on. And remember, there are also other stakeholders who were invited to give their views in the National Dialogue Committee. There were the traditional actors, there were investors, there were business people.
But Kenyans are actually protesting the high cost of living.
Yes.
And that's why they actually initiated the dialogue, to be able to calm the protests. And so Kenyans are wondering, why did you leave the high cost of living from these discussions?
But how would you protest about high cost of living in the streets? And you saw what was happening in the streets.
But that was the reason Kenyans went to the streets, so that the government puts in place measures that will reduce the cost of living.
You know, you've seen people like Eric Omondi protesting about cost of living, and they were being arrested. But now, we had to have a more formalized process of protesting.
In that formalized process, the main agenda should have remained. Item number 1 should have been cost of living. You see, just a few days ago, the cost of fuel went up. As these talks are going on, is that an indication that these talks do not hold any sway?
And now, if you remember, the Kenya Kwanza side were adamant about including cost of living in the talks. You remember that? Because they said you cannot discuss cost of living on a round table. You talk about the cost of fuel. There are so many factors that are leading to the high cost of fuel, which it's practical because you see the war in Russia and Ukraine has led to the demand of oil and the demand of oil from the OPEC countries. And we are at the mercy of the OPEC countries. We do not produce our own fuel. So when you want...
I beg to differ with you. We are past the point where we can be nice about what's happening globally. We know the measures that the Kenya Kwanza government has instituted have burdened Kenyans more than any other government has. Whatever is happening in other countries is being addressed given the circumstances of those countries. But in our country, we have seen heavier taxation. We have seen a government go on as they spend as if we are a very rich nation. Like right now, our president is away. He says that an entourage of those traveling abroad should not be more than 3. Yet when you look at the people who are accompanying him,
it's actually doing the opposite.
Yes. You look at what the Nairobi governor did the other day, and it flies against whatever they are saying. So let's just face it. These talks are not about addressing what's affecting the common mwananchi.
But they are
These
coming
talks are
down the situation that we have in the country.
And the situation we had was brought about by these two protagonists who have a monopoly of violence. One that is legally given to them by dint of them being head of state, and the other one by the influence he has on the people. Cost of living.
All right, as
that
you conclude, because time is
the
not
main
on our
agenda.
side.
And as long as it's not been addressed, as long as every other day the cost of living will keep increasing, these talks are not helping anyone.
Well, you're not giving us the time. I really disagree. I strongly disagree.
I mean, it's all right to agree to disagree on the matters. And as you conclude, I mean, what can you say is the state of our politics in just one word?
I will go back. The state of our politics right now. You saw what was... the president went in and said, I am going to lower the prices of I'm going to lower the cost of living. And that did not happen, and there were demonstrations, there was mayhem, there was a situation that we wouldn't want to know where we were if we did not have these talks. Because I always say, if we did not have these talks, if we did not calm down that situation. And remember, I said a National Dialogue Committee is a form of conflict resolution. So if we used that tool to get to some stability, because at where we were bad.
So how can you describe the state of our politics in just one word? My director is shouting on my ears. I need to end the conversation.
Let's give the NADCO time. It has been given teeth to formulate things that I feel will help us move forward. At least agreeing on seeing these two people who could not face each other sit somewhere and agree gives me a sign of hope.
All right,
so
a sign of hope.
It's hopeful. We are hopeful.
Mudiora, as you conclude.
We are in a lull, political lull, where we don't have a lot of activity. That's how come topics such as endorsing a presidential candidate 4 years before the election seem to be spicy. This lull is causing people like Rigathi Gachagua to sit on edge. But soon things are going to pick up, and then that's when the rubber will hit the road and things will come to the fore. People are planning. It's not about service delivery. It's about winning the 2027 election. IEBC needs to be reconstituted properly. Our law provides for how that should happen. I wish we did not step back to these talks we are having right now, because this is including a few individuals and excluding all the others.
All right, I guess.
Well, if you give me more time, I will talk about cost of living and price of fuel.
Yeah,
but
I
now
guess
you
next
keep
time
it
we'll have
short.
we'll have that conversation in our next discussion. I'll be pleased to invite you again, and of course Muthiora Karriara, as we discuss on these matters of national importance. That has been Muthiora Karriara, the party leader of TGN, and of course our political analyst Esther Nyonje. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to our viewers for watching the Dialogue KE. On behalf of the whole team that made this broadcast a success, have yourself a blessed night. My name is Kimani, and Boniface Murithi has been my co-presenter on the sign language interpretation.